Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my co-host, Michael Hall. Reed will not be joining us here this evening because he is busy working, which is kind of a weird thing to say. But the Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. And we are joined by friend of the podcast, Mr. Mike Callow, to be able to talk about, in this episode, get a glimpse into the future. This title of this episode is An Eye for Talent, given that Adam Peters just had his opening press conference. So, Mike, thank you for joining us this evening. How are you doing?
I'm good, guys. Always appreciate coming on. Appreciate the invite.
Absolutely. And we got to talk about the hot topic now, especially if you ask Grant Paulson on 106.7. Adam Peters in his presser. What was your big grand scheme takeaway from the interview?
I would say vibe change. That's my number one thing I took away from this press conference, in that he was thanking his wife, his family. It seemed like he was thanking every single person to start things off. He was very respectful about it. It seemed it's very collaborative with Josh Harris. Not that that's really a surprise for us, but of course it's the first major hire that Josh has made. So for me, it was a complete vibe shift is really what I took away from this. It was like, oh, wow, we've actually got a professional operation happening here. Of course, I know we'll get into it, but he didn't reveal much. But that being said, for me, it was like sigh of relief. It seems quote unquote normal. And it just seems that we actually have a professional and we have an adult in the building and doesn't have to look over his shoulder at the owner, kind of trying to sabotage or change whatever he wants to change.
Yeah, and he seems like a genuine people person. I mean, he even remembered Nikki Giabala from his time in Denver, which is obviously a long time ago, and he still remembered her, which just shows you that he remembers people and cares about them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Doesn't talk in third person either, so that was a plus.
Also a plus, yes, for sure.
Definitely. So there's been a lot of talk about, like, a lot of speculation about Ben Johnson becoming the new head coach. He was just asked about it today if he knew Adam Peters, and, like, paraphrasing, he pretty much said he knows people that know him and they said nothing but good things about him. And obviously he's interviewing here tomorrow over Zoom. But do you have a preference over the coach? Like, I know he said that everyone was like not really taking it back, but a lot of people want an offensive guy if you're going to draft a quarterback. And he said pretty much, I'm not going to pigeonhole myself to like an offensive guy or a defensive guy. I want a leader of men, and whatever side of the ball he's on, then so be it. But so I would say, what is your preference for the head coach? And if you have like a number one seed as far as like a guy getting hired, who would it be?
It is Ben Johnson, mainly just because they've clearly telegraphed this is their guy. Yeah. Like between Peters and what we've heard from the media, Bram basically hinted at it for a couple weeks on our airwaves on ESPN 630, and then has basically come out and said this is their number one pick. It is basically going to come down to, though, does a guy like Tepper go crazy and offer him $1 billion to come down there and try to fix things, or does Johnson want to fix that, right?
No, and I wanted to just branch off that a little bit because, obviously Adam Peters, when he came here, when his presser, he even said, I didn't take any other interviews. I really wanted to be here. And he was like, he thought that he screwed up the interview by saying, I want this. I don't want anything else. Do you think that there's a possibility that Ben Johnson feels the same way?
So I really had no read on the situation, but I think today a little bit of a reveal happened.
Thank you.
Where he was asked about the job here, or taking interviews in general, I guess, and basically said, I'm focused on the game this weekend, blah, blah. Said exactly what you should say, right? But then when someone asked him about getting to know Adam Peters, I forget who asked the question, but Nikki was, of course, tweeting this all out, and he basically said, no, but I'm really looking forward to getting to know him. It was very much like, you couldn't keep that one in the DMs, man. Like, you guys couldn't keep the love fest, behind closed doors. Clearly, he's interested in it here. Clearly, though, this is what pretty much since the season was ending, even before it really officially ended, though, we all knew this was going to be a place where people wanted to come. It was going to be the place where the number 2 overall pick, you can take your quarterback or trade down or do whatever you want to do, that there is a new owner involved that is spending money. You get involved with Magic Johnson. Basically, this became a really desirable place. So why wouldn't Washington be on his radar? But he was quiet, and then he wasn't quiet today. So clearly there's mutual interest. I'm still a little bit worried about a guy like David Tepper that could step in and say, "You want 20 million a year or something crazy like that?" Because let's be honest, who turns down that that kind of money?
Yeah, I get it, but it would say a lot if he still said no. I mean, even if he was
I
offered
agree.
that, and honestly, I wouldn't fault him for it either. I mean, you don't want to go crazy there. Ron Rivera would probably give him a little note and just say, "Go to a good situation, bud." But
Right.
to branch this off, brother, I do want to get your opinion because like they talk about the pieces to build around. And we talked about the Santa's 8 reindeer that going into the next season, and that's sort of similar to the same thing. Are there some guys in your mind that could be surprise moves that right now we are considering building blocks?
I don't know if it's a surprise, but I feel like more people need to talk about John Allen possibly not being on this team next year. I mean, you're talking about a guy that was, pretty professional his entire career here, but popped off a few times this year. And he's always good for one. That's always my thing with John. Like, he gets one outburst a year and he's allowed to do that. He's endured the same crap as we have as fans and wants to win really bad. But when he acknowledged on the Junkies, I 1000% think about being traded out of here. When this new ownership group, Harris and Magic Johnson and Ein and all those guys, have given guys like him and Terry McLaurin a direct line to the owner to tell you how you can improve the team, the facility, all of that stuff. And then you go out and say that on, someone else's airwaves. That's a red flag, if I'm an owner. And so we're also getting into the nitty gritty of his contract here, right? This is the time where you try to extend him out, lower that cap hit, or you move him because he actually has a pretty good cap hit for a good defensive lineman. So I think they're going to go to him and ask, do you want to be in here? Do you not? We'll do whatever you want, but we need, to know. And I think that's the name that I would pay attention to. Other than that, boys, like, I don't know who else is there. There's McLaurin, there's Payne, but like other than that, the most of the roster is like not that good. So there's really not a long list. Like you have guys like Cam Curl that are free agents, but other than that, like we're not working much here in the Ron Rivera era. There hasn't been a lot of players that have actually warranted sticking around here. So those are the three that I point, and the one that I think could be moved is John.
Mike, I'm not going to lie to you. I completely forgot my question I had prepared for you, and that was one that I had written down. But I do want to, because you talked about Ben Johnson being your favorite, the number 1 draft pick, obviously for head coach here. And I'm not going to disagree with you. I like other candidates as well, but I want to put you on the spot a little bit here. If there is a reason for somebody to counter argument as to why Ben Johnson wouldn't work here, can you provide any?
I would go that, if you think he doesn't interview well as a first-time head coach,
Okay.
I think that's a legitimate concern these days. Also, we've had John Keim on our airwaves, and Keim pointed something out that I don't think a lot of people realize. When Dan Snyder wanted a guy, he got his guy, right? And so they would just kind of go through these interviews, and not to say they wouldn't pay attention, but if a guy interviewed and they were impressed by him, there was no reason that they were going to hire that guy. So let's say when they were hiring a guy like Mike Shanahan, that was the guy, but they would interview all these other guys, and maybe there was an impressive interview, but they wouldn't really give it any weight because they weren't going to hire him. I think the X factor here is if you interview a guy and you're really impressed with him, and all of a sudden the money gets a little much for Ben, and maybe you get scared of a first-time head coach, or I don't know, like point a guy out like Raheem Morris or even Quinn. They've both been head coaches before. Everyone says they deserve a second go-around, essentially. Yeah, Wilkes too, exactly. So I think that's where you have to kind of keep an open mind with this. If they don't get Ben, honestly, maybe give a little bit of credit of whoever they do roll with if it's not Ben Johnson, because maybe they impressed in these interviews, and we're not used to that around here. It's usually this is the number 1 guy, they're going to hire him. Things are different now. So everyone should be prepared for, anything at this point.
Yeah, no, I mean, the ownership group has been pretty tight-lipped for the most part. I mean, obviously, here and there's been little like tidbits like the Ben Johnson thing, the Adam Peters thing, so and so on. But yeah, they've been pretty tight-lipped, so I definitely agree with that. But obviously they're picking at number 2, and obviously we saw what Sam Howell was from the first half to the second half of the season. And if you're on Twitter, there's the left side that's pro take a quarterback, and there's the right side that's no, stick with Sam, put some pieces around him because the roster sucks basically. So I would ask you, are you pro take the quarterback at not even if it's not at 2, say they trade back a couple spots, like 1 or 2 spots, and get Jaden Daniels or whoever it may be? Are you for taking a quarterback in the top 5, I'll say, or are you, hey, let's trust Adam Peters, trust the process per se, and let him stack up the roster and then drop the quarterback in like a couple teams have done throughout the past?
My concern here is that they will not be this bad again to pick a quarterback, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's what everyone, I wouldn't say they're afraid of it, but no one envisions this team being this bad again, right? To be in this position to take possibly trade up and get Caleb or take Drake May, right? And it really depends who the coach is, right? If it's Ben Johnson, he's going to get his guy, and it's not going to take too much to hopefully get that pick from the Bears if they want to get it, but you just don't know, right? I am pro take a quarterback mainly just because I kind of have the PTSD from the Chase Young pick. And not to say that was the wrong pick at the time. I will not say it was, because I think they had a guy that, for all intents and purposes, everyone said should have been the number 2 overall pick. It should have worked out. They technically didn't need a quarterback. The list goes on and on. But they do kind of need a quarterback. Sam was solid, but he didn't wow anybody. He had a terrible stretch the second half once he started playing more legitimate defenses. Granted, the offensive coordinator didn't help him. I understand that. But you have 2 can't miss guys in Williams and May. And I feel like you kind of just have to take your shot. If Peters decides to trade down, though, trust the process for me. I'm not going to be mad about it, is pretty much where I'm at.
My man, Mike, I know I always appreciate you coming on here, and I only have a couple more questions for you. But as you're talking about Sam Howell, I had saw a quote from Ron Rivera in his interview with John Keim, and he specifically talked about Sam Howell, saying he felt bad because he thought he put too much pressure on Sam Howell. He's a good quarterback. He's kind of shown the ability, but like in my mind, that's basically saying he's not a franchise guy.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, what 5th round pick is a franchise guy, right? I mean, like, unless your name is Tom Brady, those guys basically, it doesn't happen, right? And this is more on Ron than anything else. Like, we all have been through it a bunch of times with him. He basically puts his foot in his mouth and he can't back off of something. And when he basically said Sam was the guy, what was it, this time last year or February, maybe a little March? It might have been a little bit later than this time. That was a mistake. You should have let him, quote unquote, compete with Brissett, even if it wasn't a real competition. You should have kind of let him take the steps to be the starter instead of just handing him the reins. And then he went full Patrick Ramsey halfway through the year. He was getting pressure that wasn't there. And, you know, he was just wonky. We've seen this before with a bunch of guys, not just, you know, Redskins, Commanders, WFT quarterbacks, but Ron made a mistake by making him the guy. I will flip this back on you guys real quick. Did you see his quote on Trent Williams? What he talked about with Trent Williams with Keim?
No, what did he say? I didn't see that one.
He I just have to vent for this one because this is my pet peeve. They should have never traded Trent, like, ever. But he basically said he traded Trent because of all of the stuff that happened medically, whatever. And then he said, I couldn't evaluate him on film I couldn't evaluate him in front of me because he wasn't on the practice field. And it's like, dude, he's a future Hall of Famer. Like,
right. What do you need to evaluate? Like, what?
Mike, why even say that though?
Right. Well, that's Ron's problem. That's the whole thing. And it's like, you're gone and you're still making the same mistakes here. So, yeah, I mean, sorry to go on a tangent, but I had to vent that one out.
Yeah, I didn't even hear that or see that. That's crazy.
Trent's my favorite player in the last 20 years, and they let him go for a 3rd or 4th round pick, whatever it was, and he's still elite at his level. So, yeah, sorry to go on a tangent on that one, but that's one that hurts the hell out of me.
To make myself and Washington feel better, Mike, we'll just say that we traded Trent in order to get Adam Peters and for Dan Snyder to sell. All right, that's all we did it for.
Fair enough.
To move on a little bit further, the second question I have for you: head coaching interviews. There has been an update. I believe Dan Quinn was today. Raheem Morris tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. Am I missing anything?
In terms of guys, I think Morris was today, and it's Johnson that's tomorrow. I think that's how it goes.
Yeah,
I mean,
my bad. Yeah.
Whatever way you go, whatever way it goes. Those are the only guys I've heard about, and clearly they're very tight-lipped. The only guy we've heard about a second interview is Belichick with the Falcons. So I guess things are rolling along. I'm about as in the dark as everyone else is, but yeah, you're right. Those are the only 3 guys this week, as far as I know, who they've interviewed.
All right, and then last one I have for you, it's a heater, and I really want to ask you this. I want tea leaves, man, because if Ben Johnson, if they've been hinting at it, and we're sitting there at number 2, I know obviously the trade back is theorized. We talked about it with Hall, right? And you answered that perfectly. I agree with you. The thought of trading back is awesome. But that being said, if it is Ben Johnson, foregone conclusion that his favorite's going to be Drake May.
Correct. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's his guy. And I'm going to guess, too, that's why today he basically was like, can't wait to get to know him because this is the team that is going to be in a position to draft him. And granted, like, maybe maybe the Bears get squirrely and trade with someone that likes Drake May more, and all of a sudden they have Caleb Williams, and then they have the local kid. Like, I'm not going to be mad either way, and maybe Ben Johnson feels the same way. But yes, tea leaves are, if they get Ben Johnson, it's got to be Drake May. I mean, why would it not be? Or if they like Williams that much more, they will probably trade a little bit to trade up and get him. I think if it's Ben Johnson, the reason you would come here to this situation, you get the quarterback that you want. And honestly, let's look at it this way too. I think a lot of people are sleeping on this. If it's Drake May and Hal's families are like friends. Like, they golf together. They actually are really, really close. Look for Hal to be traded at that point. I don't see them staying on the same roster together. They are probably going to ship Hal out for a little bit.
I've been saying that since the middle of the season, man. I mean, honestly, because if you move, like, I don't see Sam socially being able to exist in that environment, especially being the starter. But just to branch off, I know I have one. I already told you the last one. But if Ben Johnson were to be the head coach, so to speak, Mike, who do you think? Are there some names at defensive coordinator that would correlate, that would link?
So, besides the usual suspects, I have come to this theory when it comes to the coordinators. You have the ownership group that is willing to spend money and is been upgrading like crazy. This coaching cycle is musical chairs, right? Eventually the chairs run out. I've got a theory here that I think, and this is just, like I said, personal. I'm gonna throw it out there. One of these jobs, one of these guys that are up for these jobs is not going to get one. And so I kind of look at one of them to maybe come on here for a year to try to fix this defense. And then they say to him, we know you might be gone after you're kind of like the enemy, right? Like, come here, then you can maybe get a gig. I look at a guy like maybe like Mike Vrabel, where like, if he doesn't get one of the jobs, you say to him, hey man, we got a bunch of talent here. You can run the defense however you want. Come here for a year, and then you can take a head coaching gig, where we're not going to take it against, count it against you. I look at something like that maybe that happens here, because this ownership group has shown the propensity that they want to sell tickets. They want to tell people that they're on board. So that's my only kind of out of left field thing. I don't know what Ben Johnson wants to do defensively if he is the head coach. That is just something in the weeds that I'm not familiar with. But that's kind of been my theory, is that there's not going to be enough jobs for all of these guys to get head coaching gigs. Some of them are going to have to step back into that coordinator role. Look at what Ron is basically doing that interview for, to say, I want to be back being a defensive coordinator. I think they might actually get someone that no one's really thinking of, because all the chairs kind of run out.
My man, I said last week, if they go with like a rookie head coach with Slowick, or Ben Johnson, like Wink Martindale is who I'd be circling, just because that veteran kind of, you need that. LA did the same thing with McVay, with Wade Phillips as defensive coordinator right now. Would like to see that mimicked, and so it makes a lot of sense you saying that. Callow, I can't thank you enough for joining us, brother. If you'd like to plug your social media handle and your show, just in case anybody watching hasn't followed you yet and would like to, brother.
Of course, man. You can always get me at Mike_Callow. That's both Twitter, Instagram, whatever else you're on. And then, of course, you can hear me every day with Bram Weinstein, 3 to 5, Bram Weinstein Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. I'm going to tease something on your guys' show. I will be taking over the 5 to 6 o'clock hour. That'll be my own show after the Super Bowl. There'll be more details, but I am going to keep it kind of open forum. I'm going to be inviting other shows to come and join me on the air. That includes you guys. So a little bit of a tease there. Like, I know we have a huge Commanders community here. I want to get the word out for everybody. And so I'm going to try to branch that gap between the actual radio and all of us on the digital side as well. So just stay tuned. I got something cooking. I'll let you guys know about that soon, though.
My man,
that's awesome, man. Congrats.
Appreciate you for thinking of us. I would really extend that over to Hall first, because I've had my opportunity for the radio and everything, and he hasn't had as many opportunities as I have. Just keep that in mind, Cal. I really appreciate it. And if you need a list, I could provide some that would honestly be great, fantastic guests for you as well. But Mike,
Perfect,
I can't thank you enough for joining us. Thank you for joining and saying that. It's really nice of you, and congratulations, because you friggin' deserve it, dude. You're awesome.
Yeah, man,
I can't thank you enough for joining us, man. Have a good evening.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. See you.
Appreciate it, man. Have a good weekend.
All right, everybody, we just spoke with the man, Mr. Mike Callow. Always appreciate Mike, dude. It's such a good time. And it's good, actually, because I was going to ask him if his show is going to be, like, pertaining to a certain sport or whatever. And then when he said, obviously, Commanders area, I was like, okay, good. I like to hear that.
Yeah, no, that's what's up, man. He definitely works hard and definitely deserves it, so congrats to him.
Absolutely. And now let's move on to our fan questions before we are joined by our next guest. And this question was submitted by the Colonel Hall. I want each of your predictions for our quarterback situation in 2024. How the hell? But he said, will it be one of the top 3? Caleb Williams, Brock May, or Jaden Daniels? So he said Caleb Williams, Drake May, or Jaden Daniels. He wrote Caleb Wilson and Brock May. but it's really funny. Or a veteran like Russell Wilson or Joe Flacco to back up Sam Howell, and I think he used Siri. That's why.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't see Russell Wilson being a backup, so I would say
Flacco.
Flacco. I'm pretty sure he's going back to his couch. I mean, the man was basically falling asleep on the bench during some of the games. Like
He was
old
balling
man
though.
Flack. Well, he was definitely balling, but he was
He's like
definitely
my
old man Flacco
grandpa.
move.
My grandpa, when he was like 80, would come over. He worked really hard to get into the house. By the time he hit the couch,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He was looked like me, honestly. Like, let me go catch this touchdown real quick, and let me sit down and take a load off real quick.
Sharnice
But
said the other day, she was like, "Dude, Hall always looks stoned." I'm like, "It's not that he's looking down, and so you can't see his eyes. Like, it's okay. It's all right."
exactly. But as far as the quarterback goes, like Callow just said, if Ben Johnson does in fact become the head coach, like a lot of people are speculating, if you read the tea leaves, he's a former UNC college football player. He's from the Carolina area, so I think something like that.
He
So
went to UNC, played
yeah, he went
quarterback
to
at UNC.
yeah, he played quarterback at UNC exactly. So the tea leaves would say that Drake May would be his guy. He kind of resembles kind of that Jared Goff in the pocket type guy, where he can stand tall in the pocket. If he's when he's on his mark, he can just make all the throws, throw darts over the middle, great downfield accuracy. So I would say it's going to be Drake May, but yeah, I would definitely see that. I mean, I wouldn't be mad if they had Jaden Daniels as well, just because the whole athleticism and maybe like the upside of maybe like an Anthony Richardson that was just drafted this past year. But I think that if Ben Johnson is the head coach, even if he's not the head coach, I think all signs would point to Drake May from North Carolina being the quarterback in 2024.
Absolutely. And then I did see that the Bears, what they had interviewed Cliff Kingsbury today.
Mm-hmm.
He was the USC coach, right?
USC offensive coordinator, obviously worked with Caleb Williams last year and was on Lincoln Riley's staff as offensive coordinator. Obviously knows Caleb Williams well, knows what he likes, knows what he does well. So I think the Bears obviously are doing a little pre-scouting on Caleb Williams, trying to get a little bit more intel from Cliff Kingsbury as far as like Caleb Williams goes.
And I also think the Bears are smart by
Oh
doing that
yeah, because
interview.
you're going to attract a guy that he knows and wants to play for.
Well, and if teams think that you really are going to go for Caleb, they might offer you a little bit
That's
more
it.
if
Yeah,
they
yeah,
thought that
yeah.
you didn't. You know what I'm saying? But that being said, Colonel, I do think just looking at it, if Ben Johnson is the pick, I think that it is Drake May, and I think it's just obvious at that point. And obviously, I haven't been very uplifting of Drake May up until this point. But like I've told you guys at Discord, I don't know anything. I don't know crap. But maybe me not being in love with him is actually a good thing in that regard, and I'm willing to be shut up. You know what I'm saying? But if it is like Bobby Slowick as head coach, which I would obviously be surprised by, but I would enjoy, I think somebody like Jaden Daniels actually isn't a bad pick in that sort of situation, similar to C.J. Stroud in the throwing capability, and I feel like that's a good fit. But if I'm gonna just reading the tea leaves, Colonel, I will say that it's probably going to be Drake May with Ben Johnson. And I put this on Twitter. I found this out on Moco Show on Facebook that the Detroit Lions, their offensive line coach, went to Gaithersburg High School. Don't know if he was a Cowboys fan or Eagles fan in the area. All I'm saying is he might be invested in coming with Ben, because I think structuring the coaching staff is obviously important, and we don't know how much of Detroit they're going to allow to leave with Ben, right? Because we talked about Mark
Even
Brunell.
I was gonna say even a guy like Mark Brunell
Right.
as a quarterback coach.
And so, like, that's what you kind of worries me. Like, is he going to be able to bring his guys? And that's all I was tweeted out about the Gaithersburg High School thing with the offensive line coach, because that's one intriguing option. And obviously, with Ben Johnson, he said in his quote, I think a couple of days ago, he said, like, our offense is based on offensive line. It's not quarterback centric.
Oh yeah.
It's offensive line centric. That's music to my freaking ears, man. I'll tell you that right now. But the next question that we have from the Colonel, and this is a good one. Washington used to have, in my opinion, the best looking uniforms in the NFL. The burgundy and gold color scheme was aesthetically pleasing. This new blend of Atlanta Falcons and Pittsburgh Steelers uniforms offends my senses. Am I being too sensitive?
No, I wouldn't say you're being too sensitive. A lot of people have that the love for the burgundy and gold, like obviously hanging up in the background right here. Hanging up, well, this is like kind of the newer stuff, but I mean, look, I think there's been
Same
a
thing.
well, look, I know. I actually have the my Dotson jersey, and I hold it up to my AG jersey. It ain't the same color, but
It's because it's a knockoff brand.
Yeah, but I mean, I think I think there's been talk about maybe that. I mean, I know it'd probably take a lot of work because you got to like put money in the manufacturing and whatever, blah blah blah. But maybe at some point they go back to the original burgundy and gold, and maybe they keep the W or whatever the logo might be or whatever it may be. But there's definitely been talk about the new ownership because fans, not just because fans have been like wanting it, but they seem to kind of want to throw the fans a couple bones as because of what Dan Snyder didn't do for the fans per se. So I think that maybe because people want the name change so bad, and that's going to be probably down the line. I think that in the meanwhile, to kind of please the older fans and kind of please the fan base on the whole name thing, maybe they go back to the original Burgundy Gold. Maybe they tweak it a little bit, but I think it'll be some way somehow the original Burgundy and Gold colors, and you will not have to destroy your senses anymore.
Very, very well done. Yes, because you remember when the Ravens first came out, their logos, it wasn't exactly what it is today, right? They've kind of
Oh yeah.
morphed over time. I would say that if you were to say that you hate every single thing about it to the point where you don't even want any tweaks, I would say that you are probably being too sensitive and care a little bit too much about something that truly does not matter in the grand scheme of things. We are a fan of a professional football team. They could be out there in pink. Shoot, they could be the Browns colors, orange and brown. I'll still be cheering for them. You know what I'm saying? The Louisiana Mud Dogs. I'd be all for it. You know what I'm saying, dude? But if you're willing to say, I like the concept and the idea that they originally brought with, but it needs molding. It needs to be shaped and detailed better. Like, for example, the black uniform, like you've talked about many times, Colonel, it's too close to the Steelers uniform. And I would honestly agree that they would need to add a little bit more burgundy in there to be able to
Yeah.
kind of bounce each other off. Maybe like burgundy pants to go with the black jersey to kind of throw away the view of it looking like Steelers or Falcons, in my personal opinion. So as long as you're willing to do the tweaks, I don't think you're being too sensitive. But if it's one of those things where it's like my way or the highway, then it's like, what are we doing here? You know?
Yeah. No, I agree.
It's uniforms. I guess this is the time to say it, Colonel. So no, you're not being sensitive. If this was during the football season, maybe, but not right now. Just in my personal opinion. Now let's go to Twitter for our next round of questions, and this one's going to be from our boy Tony Franchise. Thank you, Tony. Not saying I want this to happen, but what would you think if we traded the Bears back their second round pick for Fields and traded back with our number 2? So what he's saying is the second
Yeah, I
round
know.
pick
It's
they gave
basically
us.
Justin Fields, and then you add like a left tackle or Marvin Harrison or whatever it may be,
Well,
and you get more picks.
what he's saying is the second rounder they sent us for Montez Sweat, we're sending
Hmm.
that for Justin Fields, and then
Right.
from the number 2 spot in the first round, we trade back
Yeah,
from
yeah,
number
yeah,
2, is what he's saying.
yeah, yeah. And then you get like
Not
hopefully
not for you, for everybody watching.
Okay, yeah, yeah. I mean, it sounds good, and like, would you want more picks? Obviously, you would acquire some more like. Yeah, because you're trading down. You would acquire more picks because you're trading down. Depending on how far you trade down, you're gonna still get hopefully a blue chip talent and a cornerstone piece for your team going forward. But it's just like we talked about with Callow. It's like a lot of people on Twitter have been talking about. When are you going to be? And then also Justin Fields is a guy that you're going to have to pay very soon, depending on go down the franchise tag road and the 5th-year option and all that stuff. I would just say that you just got a new GM on a 5-year deal. You're going to hire a head coach, more than likely Ben Johnson, whoever it may be, is going to be on a 5-year deal. It would just make more sense to draft the rookie quarterback who, if everything pans out, everything goes well, more than likely you're going to pick up that 5th-year option. That's a 5-year deal. Let all those guys build together, grow together, and you mold the team around the coach's eyes, what the GM wants for the team as far as everything goes, like how the philosophy of the team goes, and you mold it around the quarterback and what he does well. And hopefully you got a tandem that's going to be here for the next 10, 15 years plus. And so, like I said, I like the idea of trading back. It sounds good because this is a roster with a lot of holes, and you could be able to plug some of those holes very, very quickly. I would just say that this team is rarely in the position to draft in the top 5. As mediocre as we've been, as bad as we've been in the middle. We've never been in that top 5 range to really draft that quarterback. And obviously with Chase Young, we missed out on the quarterbacks and stuff like that. So I would just say, when's the
Not
next
by
time you're
any
going to be?
fault of our own.
Of course, of course.
I'm
Everyone
telling
said
you right now,
everyone said that was a slam dunk pick. Everyone said that was a slam dunk pick.
Everybody, a whole lot of people.
It's always revisionist history, obviously.
I know.
And look,
I just don't like
and
when
I've
people
always been the one that said if we would have drafted Tua, he wouldn't have worked out. He would, you know what I'm saying? Like he wouldn't have worked out here. So it was the slam dunk
Can
pick.
I say
Everyone
something
was
real
on
quick?
board with it.
My whole thing is the people that are saying that Ron Rivera messed up by not drafting a quarterback at number 2 were probably the same exact people complaining that Dwayne Haskins didn't have weapons going into that season that Ron Rivera provided because everyone believed that Dwayne Haskins was the future. The same exact people that hype up all the other different quarterbacks, they thought Dwayne was the future, and so did Dan Snyder, and he forced that on Ron. I'm sorry. Keep going.
No, exactly. So, like I said, long story short, GM with a 5-year deal. Head coach coming in is going to have a 5-year deal. Let the head coach draft the quarterback that he wants. Ben Johnson, Drake May. Let those guys work together, grow together. Let the GM build the team out around that rookie contract for the next 5 years. And next thing you know, maybe 2-3 years from now, we're one of those teams that's competing for the playoffs, winning 10, God forbid, 11 plus games, and we're in the mix for some Super Bowls. So I think that that's how trading back would be great, but I think you got to go quarterback at 2.
I agree with you, man. I will say this. Tony, I like Justin Fields and who he is. I still feel to this day that Justin Fields should have been drafted by San Francisco, and they screwed up by not doing that. That being said, if Chicago's walking away from Justin Fields, why the hell should we be going down that avenue?
Exactly.
We have one pick behind them. Just common sense looking at it. Like, they know him more than anybody. Now, if you told me that Justin Fields would bring Chase Young here on a 1 year $3 million deal, then yeah, sure, let's think about it a little bit. Because I feel like with Chase, the idea, it excites me, but I think for 1 year, $3 million, that's the only thing I do for Chase Young. Because Chase Young at this point needs to prove it, and he hasn't done a lot of it with San Fran. But if he's willing to come back here, I think we do need some edge help if we go along that line. But
I mean, coming back.
I know. No, I would not do it with Justin Fields. I like the idea of trading back, obviously, in the first round. If you feel comfortable with those quarterbacks, obviously, that you have there. But if you have your guy, obviously stay put and go. But I'm much more rather go down the rookie quarterback aspect of this. Because the one thing I said regarding this is the GM position for Chicago is not the same type of position it is for Washington. Because you have the question of Justin Fields. And that's going to be a bad starting point for a new GM to say, do I pick up his 5th-year option and possibly ruin my chance to get a quarterback now? Or do I not pick up his 5th-year option, go with the rookie quarterback, and possibly lose, relation with the fan base? Do I want to appease them or not? And that's probably one of the cogs that not a lot of people talk about with GMs. And they don't want to start off in that kind of breath, and that's why this opportunity is so great. So I think that we're good where we're at. I think we're in the direction that we're at. And I really like where we're headed, man. I like Adam Peters live. I'm glad that we're not talking about how good looking he is. That Reed's not on here. Like Grant was. That was so weird, man. I swear. Like the guy just had his press conference. We're all excited. And here's Grant on radio talking about, dude, he's a dreamboat. Like,
I know.
They always do that. What are we talking about here?
They always do that bit, though, with like Tom Wilson and like Corey Kispert, guys like that.
I know. I'm just saying.
I know. Yeah.
Come on, I'm just saying. Now, the next question we have is from the Discord chat. This is from our guy, Mr. Tim Towner. If we hire Slowick or Johnson, will they call plays, or will they have an OC who will let them call plays? And actually hold that thought, because we are now joined by our next guest, Mr. Michael Phillips. How are you doing on this beautiful Thursday evening, sir? Oh, look at that finger.
Hey.
What's up, Phillips? How you doing?
There we go. We got there. All right. How's it going?
It's going. It's exciting times, Phillips. To be perfectly honest with you, I think this is unprecedented for a lot of the Washington fan base. We're not used to being the diamond, I guess you could say. But in your opinion, the Peters presser and everything like that, was there anything that stood out to you as like a key point that really resonated?
I do think that that's true, that, we're the belle of the ball all of a sudden, right? And you're talking about Ben Johnson. Why wouldn't Ben Johnson want to come here? And in the past, it would be, there are tons of reasons why Ben Johnson wouldn't want to come here. So it's very exciting to, get the guys you're hoping for every time. I think it's a real positive right now, something for fans to get excited about. Here's what I like. Adam Peters, he's the man. He's got all the power. He can tell the coach what to do if he wants to when the coach arrives. But he spent the entire press conference not talking about how important he was, not talking about what a big deal he was, but talking about how he wants to defer every big decision to the coach and to, the coach's style and approach. And I thought that, if I were a coaching candidate and I listened to that, that's a guy I'd want to work with.
Absolutely, and because I've been saying for a while, like I didn't really mind who they went with GM, as long as everybody had one vision, one goal going directed towards. And I felt like that was one of my biggest takeaways from Peters' presser, was the fact that he would have it as more of a group decision so that everyone was on the same page. How important do you think that is, Michael?
Yeah, it's so important, right? And your best organizations, people talk about like, oh, Pete Carroll, man, he's got all the power there. Like, well, he gets along really well with John Schneider. Same with Andy Reid and his GMs in Kansas City. Like, those are very important relationships. And the Cowboys obviously have their structure, but the GM side of the house is respected. The coaching side of the house is respected. They get input from both sides. And look, they got some important decisions. I'm sure we'll get to that. Number 2 draft pick, $90 million in cap space. Like, you can't be figuring this out as you go. You got to jump in, excited to go.
100%. And we were talking about this earlier, where Twitter is basically, one side of Twitter is pro quarterback. The other side of Twitter is, no, we need to put some more pieces around Sam Howell. He can still do it. I'm sure you're probably pro quarterback. We're both pro quarterback. But what would be the argument to the other side of that's where, hey, let's trade back a couple spots and kind of build it out type of thing?
No, I think that was a great way to put it. I am pro quarterback. The irresponsible thing, I'll say it, somebody will get mad at me. The irresponsible draft a non-quarterback with the number 2 spot. That, to me, is indefensible for that amount of draft leverage, that big of a pick. In a 3 quarterback draft where people want to go up and get a quarterback. That, if you turn in the card and it's Marvin Harrison, that's irresponsible. I don't care how good he is, you've wasted the number 2 pick. If it's Joe Alt, you've wasted the pick. I can defend trading down. If you trade down and you load up, if you like somebody else, if you like Penix, if you like McCarthy, there's so many good options out there. Probably 7 or 8 legit guys who you'd say, hey, could project out to be NFL starters. If you like Joe Alt, move down to 4, move down to 5, get him there, but load up some picks in the interim. So yeah, I'm a quarterback guy. I'm turning in the card for a quarterback. And I'm telling these guys, if you fall in love with Caleb Williams, go get him at number 1 if you need to. You don't get this opportunity often, but one thing I'm not doing is turning in that card at 2 for a non-quarterback.
I think we can all agree on that. I know there are some nutsos out there, but we're all kind of crazy in some way, Michael. My next question for you, because speaking of crazy, I'm always uploading mock drafts, and it's way too early, but I just like to gauge people's feeling on prospects in the draft classes that I do. And I've been getting yelled at that there's not enough picks in the offensive line. So that being said, is left tackle and right tackle a need right now?
Well, I still think you're going to cut Charles Leno. I don't know. Okay. Maybe you won't, but he's $11 million against the cap. I don't know. I don't know that that's savings you don't want to pocket and say, let's bring in some young guys and see what they can do. Now, I understand, if you're going to run out a rookie quarterback, if you're going to run out a young guy, wanting to go big at that position. But I think there's cap savings there. So, yes, I would obviously get somebody in that case. It's funny because I think guard is also a need. Left guard is also a need. So, how do you prioritize? How do you go which way? You're not going to spend second, third all on offensive line. That feels aggressive to me, maybe. I don't know. If you love the players, you love the players. But yeah, it's a team with a lot of needs. It's a position where you don't get instant impact except at the very top. Wouldn't surprise me if the O-line picks are maybe later than earlier.
Agreed. So a lot of people are pro Ben Johnson. They want him to be the guy. They want him to pair him with the next incoming quarterback for hopefully the way foreseeable future down the road. But say Ben Johnson gets drawn away by David Tepper because he offers him the whole Carolina's taxes money that he has. He offers him all the money that he has in the bank to come be the coach there. Offers him all the power in the world that he needs to be the coach there. Who would be your next guy up if Ben Johnson does end up going outside of Washington?
I am torn on this. I will give you my criteria, and then I will break it with my answer. I love Ben Johnson because he checks both boxes. Offensive-minded play caller who's a genius, savant, whatever. leader of men. He's a leader. Guys respond to him. He builds a positive culture. That's why I like him so much. You can pair him with a rookie quarterback. You don't have to worry about him leaving. He's a good offensive guy, but he's also a guy that people like playing for. You hear the stories in Detroit. People really like being a part of Ben Johnson's teams and units. I would pick Raheem Morris. I know he's a defensive guy. I think if you've got to split out the two, offensive genius and leader of men, I think leader of men might be more important at this juncture for this franchise, for what Peters wants to build, for what Josh Harris has talked about building. I think that the leader aspect is very important. I think Raheem Morris brings that to the table. Bobby Slowick, obviously, with the ties to here previously, would be a great choice, or other guys who would be a great choice. I think if I'm picking between the two, though, I'm grabbing leader over, offensive mind. And I think Raheem Morris checks that box. I like him a lot.
That being said, based on what you just said, but to wrap this up, Michael, I have only a couple more questions for you. 2-word question. Dan Quinn, Bill Belichick.
Nope. Yeah, we're good. I think the Eagles should grab Belichick. I don't think they should because for the division, it's good if they keep status quo there this year, obviously. But you got a team ready to win the Super Bowl. Why not lock and load with Belichick for a year after the locker room's not going to do what it did there? But no, I'm out on both those guys.
I just wanted to make sure because Florio watching this, of course, wants to know as well. But my next question for you,
yes.
Pertaining to looking forward, edge rusher. Do you think that's best? What do you think they're going to do with edge? Because obviously that is a gigantic need, and going forward, that is one of your most important pieces. They have young pieces added that you don't feel comfortable in. What do you feel like they're going to do at edge?
It's a real sticky situation, right? You're not going to use 1-2 on that, and by the time you get to it, there's not elite talent left out there. I wonder if you don't make the move there this year, because one of the things I've said is this is a 2-year rebuild potentially, right? This is potentially, year 1, get the pieces in place, year 2, start pushing chips in. If you can establish this as a place people want to be, a coach guys want to play for, a GM who's building a good team, I think you can do more with your cap money next year than you can this year. I think this year you're still kind of paying the bad franchise tax to a large degree. Guys, you have to pay twice as much, get half as much with guys coming here. I like the idea of waiting a year before you make a move at that position, and maybe trying to get a guy who wants to be here instead of trying to lure a guy here.
I totally agree. Last one I have for you. I know you probably don't know this, but if you could guess, how long do you think it will be until Washington announces their new head coach?
I think Ben Johnson's the favorite. I consider him the favorite, and I would say that means about 5 days after the Lions season ends. I will say this, though. I am hopeful they make the Super Bowl because I think that's cool to have a Super Bowl coach on your staff.
All right, I will agree there. I don't think many of the Washington fan base, they're not patient, Michael. And at this point, they're all ready to go, and they want Detroit to lose now. I mean, we even saw the press conference with Nicky, right? Because I saw Nicky was up in Detroit, and I was like, wait a minute, why is Nicky in Detroit? Oh, Michael, I can't thank you enough. I can't thank you enough for joining us, brother. If you could just plug your social media handle and your show, just in case anybody watching hasn't followed you yet, sir, and would like to.
Yeah, Michael P and RVA on social media. I will not be in Detroit, but maybe I should be. Everybody else is excited about that.
Absolutely, Michael. I can't thank you enough, man. Enjoy your night. Stay warm if you can.
Thank you. I think my connection wasn't great. Hopefully, that's always good chatting with you guys.
No, you're fine. You're good, Michael. Have a good night, brother. Appreciate it. All right, everybody, we just spoke with the man, Mr. Michael Phillips. It was on a little bit of a delay, but not too bad. I mean, of course, it could have been worse of not hearing him at all. Of course, it was a situation come up before. But very, very interesting things. A couple of those things that he said, by the way. And being Raheem Morris, I like the idea of that because Raheem did really well with Aaron Donald, right? And this kind of our defense kind of being structured from the middle of the defense and that defensive line, it would show that Raheem would possibly be able to walk in and know what to do with it, be able to replicate some success in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously with Kyle Shanahan, he knows Raheem Morris pretty well. Obviously, the Adam Peters ties to Kyle Shanahan, so I would assume that if he doesn't know Raheem Morris personally, I know that Kyle Shanahan's definitely like putting some good words in Adam Peters' ears about Raheem Morris prior to the interview. And I mean, Adam Peters said it basically like, I'm not gonna, like you said in this press conference, I'm not worried about offensive side of the ball, defensive side of the ball. Number one trait I want as the head coach, as the guy that is going to report to me, is a leader of men. And so a lot of people say that just like Dan Quinn, Raheem Morris is by far the best leader of men coach out there on the market right now, other than maybe like Mike Vrabel, Dan Quinn, guys like that. So I would not be surprised if, for whatever Ben Johnson decided to go somewhere else. Again, personally, I think that just like Adam Peters said, this is the perfect spot for me. I think that is the Ben Johnson is also thinking the same thing. Like this will be the perfect spot, the perfect landing spot for me at this point in time. So I definitely think that I wouldn't be like, would I be mad that they hired Raheem Morris? I'm not gonna say I'd be mad, but I would be like Ben Johnson, I'd be like, let's go. I'd be psyched. I'd be hyped up.
Right.
Raheem Morris, I'd be like, okay, like whatever.
Like
So.
yeah, well, it would be a major letdown for a lot of people because a
Yeah,
lot of
of
people are
course.
getting excited about the idea of Ben Johnson or like Bobby Slowick and others, but I totally get it. Now to finish this off, brother. Let's answer some fan questions. This one from Big Tony Shivers. I know I asked you about Tim's earlier. We're gonna get to that, but Tony Shivers' question to us. Thank you, Tone. Who you got in this weekend's playoff games?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'll go Ravens over Texans. I will go 49ers over Packers. I will go Detroit in a close game over Tampa Bay. And I will go, I think the Bills pull out a close one. Nah, actually, you know what? I'm going to go with the Chiefs as the underdogs. I think it'll be a close game. I think that Kansas City and Mahomes pull a rabbit out the hat and pull a close game out in Buffalo. So I'll go with Kansas City, Detroit in a close game. I think that San Francisco kind of pulls away late on the 49ers. And I think that the Ravens, Texans will be a shootout, but in the end, the Ravens kind of not pull away, but they'll put it out of reach late in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, they're very, very well built football teams on each side of the football, right? Kind of being Houston and Baltimore, but I do think you're right with Baltimore there. I would, dude. Honestly, you guys are all gonna make fun of me with this, dude. I really think the Eagles and the Cowboys are gonna win this weekend. I really do. They're gonna win. They're gonna cover. You should put all your money on Dallas. Wait, what?
Throw the whole house on them to cover.
Wait, they're still playing, right?
Cover themselves in their beds because they'll be sleeping at home. That's what I meant by cover.
Fuck boys. Now let's go to our next question. This one's from Tim Towner. Hall, if we hire Bobby Slowick or Ben Johnson, will they call plays or will they have the OC and let them call plays?
I would assume that they would be the ones calling the plays, but obviously the OC is going to probably be the one like helping out with the kind of like Airbnb in Kansas City, where he'll be the one putting the game plan together. He'll be the one like in the meeting rooms throughout the week, helping out Andy Reid, helping with the workload per se. But I think that come game day, it will be Ben Johnson, Bobby Sloak, whoever it might be, if they're hired. I think they'll be the ones that are calling plays, and maybe a guy like Slowick kind of defers it in the beginning because he's so young and he's just getting into it as a head coach. But I think that a guy like Ben Johnson, who's been doing it for a while, I think he'll be the one that would call plays if he's hired.
Yeah, well, Ben Johnson, I would imagine him just being the kind of leader that he is and everything like that, having the ability in Detroit, if he were to get the head coaching job here, let's say if he were to bring Mark Brunell here, I think that he would allow Mark Brunell to have input into the game plan. They'd mesh it together, and it would be their own thing. Basically, helping out Mark Brunell, being able to come together as an offensive coordinator moving forward, but also being able to have his input, his intellect, being able to put it in there. And on the flip side of it, Ben Johnson could even help out on defense if there needs to be, because obviously he has experience with that in the past as well. And so
You mean Slowick?
Oh, no, is that Slowick? My bad. Yeah, that's Slowick.
Yeah.
So it would make a lot of sense in those two regards that they offer that to you. You know what I mean? But it's funny because honestly, I don't really care. I think that's why Adam Peters is so smart in saying that leadership is number one, because ultimately the head coach like shouldn't have all that weight on him, right? Calling all the plays, like with Andy Reid. That's why he had Eric Bieniemy to kind of lean on in that regard. And so I can understand what Adam Peters is essentially saying there, and I'm all for it. I get it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I said, yeah, Ben Johnson just seems like a guy that he's going to come in. It's going to be his offense. He'll take the input on the game plan and whatnot, like you said, but he'll be the one calling plays. Where is Bobby Slowick? Like just because he's such a young dude and he'll be like I said, just a young dude. So maybe like he defers to the offensive play calling, so he can kind of be that CEO type of head coach in the beginning, and then eventually down the road he kind of picks up the play calling and takes it over.
Absolutely. Now, this next question is from Deluxe. Thoughts on all three division rival coaches returning next season? Will Will McCarthy coaching on last contract year impact Dallas? Lame duck?
Um, it's hard to say because
If
you look at the
if McCarthy's a lame duck, does that mean Sirianni's a lame dick?
he's definitely a lame dick. I don't know if he's definitely a limp dick probably too. But no, no, but I don't know. It's hard to say because we were looking at this kind of like lame duck year from Ron Rivera here, and obviously we thought that the guys in the locker room loved playing for him and would rally around him and like, you know what, let's go out there and try to win it for Ron, whatever, blah blah blah. And obviously they fell. Just everything went horribly bad this year. So it could go both ways. Like guys in the locker room, I know in Dallas, like this, I mean, who knows what they say behind closed doors, but to the media, everyone says how much they like playing for Mike McCarthy and he's such a great coach and blah, 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 blah. Especially Dak. I mean,
yeah, of course.
The numbers
he's
say
getting massages during meetings. Of course they love him.
Exactly. And he's definitely not like the hard ass like type of coach that they probably need in Dallas. But I would say that based on Jerry Jones and his track record, I would say that he likes coaches that have a little bit less spotlight than him and that he can kind of control behind the scenes. And I would say Mike McCarthy fits that bill. So I would say Mike McCarthy's back next year, even though he's already announced he's coming back. I think Sirianni is going to be back. They're just going to switch up the coordinators there. And Brian Daboll, I mean, he's going to be there, but I don't know if anyone's going to want to like actually work for him because apparently everyone hates his ass. So who knows? I just like it over here where we got nothing but positive vibes over here in the DMV.
It's crazy.
Everyone else is like, literally, they're taking all like 20 plus years of our bad juju and all our just huge crap. We're just releasing it onto the rest of the NFC East. So I like where we're at right now, and I love where the other teams are at right now.
Yeah, what are our thoughts on all three division rival coaches returning? I absolutely love it. Philly, as much like going on a losing streak at the end of the season. No, I told you guys way back when.
You see Dallas Goedert was like, man, you a bitch on the sideline. Jalen Hurts is like.
Like all I'm saying is I told you guys in August I didn't respect the Eagles because they lost both coordinators, thought it was going to be heavy. I didn't respect the Cowboys, I thought they were soft, and then because they haven't dealt with injuries and other things like that. And I didn't respect the Giants because they're the Giants, and but the thing is with Mike McCarthy, it's funny because everyone likes to give Mike McCarthy his flowers, and I get it, but has Mike McCarthy ever had to coach a rookie quarterback? Has Mike McCarthy ever had to have a quarterback controversy whatsoever? No. He's typically been walked into a very good situation. And look, he does well with it. Almost like Trump when he got his $1 million inheritance from his dad.
He had the little controversy with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers there, but that was more like on Brett Favre and the organization.
That was a controversy of winning and successful quarterbacks.
I know.
I'm so sorry, Mike McCarthy.
No, it wasn't really a controversy. That was more of like
I know
them trying to push Brett Favre out, and he was just like, no. Kind of like Aaron Rodgers. They were trying to push him out, but yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I got you. But I absolutely love it because we're actually making a change. We're getting ahead of things. And these other teams are going to be put in a very bad position, meaning if they do move on from Sirianni next year, they're going to move on from Hurts as well. They're going to be bringing in a coach to fit with Jalen Hurts, and we've kind of seen how that works here in Washington. So I do like it a lot, and the fact is that we, as long as they're not hiring Eric Bieniemy or Ron Rivera, one of the NFC East teams, I'm all good. You guys know how I feel about Rivera, but if he goes to one of those NFC East teams, I'm going to be pissed, And like I wish him the best, I really do. But if you go to one of those teams, I'm not wishing you the best anymore. I'm being honest with you. I said the same thing with Bryce Harper when he went to Philly. Like you should know That's the no-no. Like, you should know that when you took this job, that afterwards you
I
weren't going to go there.
I did see the rumor about Eric Bieniemy rumored up to Philly. If
Well, Eric, not so much. Rivera, yes, because
yeah.
Eric's only been here a year, man. These people have been deployed to Iraq longer than that. You know what I mean? Now, the next question that we have, this is from Mr. Irrelevant, our boy Andy Lockhart in the Discord. I'm not going to tell you what his first question was. As much as they want me to say it on here, we're not going to do that because I'm not Mike Reed. His question is, how long should our fan base wait to see real progress in the team before going nuts?
Well, I would say as long as you see, because again, if you look at Adam Peters' track record in San Francisco, when he first got there, I think they were in the same position as us, number 2 overall pick or something like that. They had a lot of cap space, and they kind of built it from the ground up. And they only won, what was it, like 3, 4, 5 games that first year. The second year, they got Jimmy G, or no. The first year is when they traded for Jimmy G, and they end up going on the hot streak. The second year, Jimmy G gets hurt. They won a couple games. Third year, they've built the team up. They got Jimmy G as a quarterback with Shanahan. They go to the Super Bowl. So I would say that based off of what Adam Peters said in his press conference, he said that it's not a full rebuild, and they're going to have guys that are going to want to come out, that want to be here, want to play here. Guys are going to work hard, play hard, and they're going to show it on the field. So I would say that as long as they're showing the growth throughout the season, I'm not going to put a number value on the wins at this point because I don't know what they're going to do in free agency with the draft and all that. But I would say as long as they're showing growth throughout the season, as long as the quarterback is developing, the offensive line is gelling together and developing, the defense is growing and getting better, then I would say that's what you need to be looking for. But all in all, I would say by year 2, they got to be at least in the mix, in my opinion. By year 2, they got to be in the mix for that 7th seed in the playoffs, like trying to sneak in. And then that third year, whatever. But first year, I just want to see growth and development for the entire team as opposed to like a number value on the wins.
I got you. Though I just want to start this question or answer off with a joke. How funny it would be if Adam Peters actually did not take a quarterback in the first round and everyone is flipping out because of
Twitter
it.
would break,
right? But this is the same dude who got Mr. Irrelevant and Brock Purdy. And so it's just funny that the fan base would be questioning that in that regard, where we should be sitting back saying, I'm pretty sure this guy knows what he's talking about, so maybe we should shut up a little bit.
That's true.
That being said, how long should our fan base wait to see real progress in this team before going nuts? Well, there was a very specific point in Adam Peters' press conference that I specifically took away. After he got there in San Francisco in 2017, they had a bad year. But he specifically said that the fan base, the good fan base, realized they could see the difference in the play of the team throughout that season, that there was actual changes. So my question back to you, Andy, is what is your definition of progress? Because I've seen progress in this football team over the past 3 years until last year, obviously. But, like, I've seen progress, a little bit of players like Cam Curl, for instance. Like, you would say that's a progress from the Dan Snyder era because we didn't have 7th-round picks blowing up like that, like in the Cam Curl kind of way. So is our fan base going to be able to recognize the real progress on the field of the transition to a successful winning football team? I find that it's going to be hard for that to happen. But in that being said, I think that he was probably being humble when he said all that. And I think that we might be getting a lot better than we think we are. And so I think it'd probably be 2 years, I would say, give it, to be honest. Because at the worst case scenario, if you have to really replenish, every single asset here, you're probably looking at about end of the 2 years is when you can actually start to question if things are blossoming or not.
Exactly. That's why I said, like, year 1, I just want to see growth and development. By year 2, I want to see you like competing for a playoff spot, even if it's just a 7th seed. I'm okay with that because that's growth from 3-14, 4-13, whatever we were this year, to whatever the wins are next year, to fighting for a 7th seed, 6th seed, whatever it may be. Okay, that's growth. So year 2, you got to be like Michael Phillips just said. Year 2, you got to push the chips in. That's when you start. Okay, now we're here to make a statement for ourselves. We're competing for the playoffs before we actually hopefully take that next step to the NFC Championship / Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I had to like talk myself down a little bit because I honestly, dude, I absolutely loved the Adam Peters presser. I really personally, I really resonated with a lot of what he said. You know, kind of with his story of being the walk on at UCLA and just the hard work mentality. Like that resonates a lot, like with me and talking about how the one vision and then having everyone in the kind of just the grand thought of it all. Him even saying like I understand exactly like what Adam Peters is, weirdly enough. But I had to talk myself down in knowing that this is just the intro to the presser and this is how every team president talks. But
Right.
that being said, I believed everything that man said. And I am very, very happy
And
that because if I would have heard that what he said in the presser, if he would have told me that straight to my face, I would have picked him over Ian Cunningham just based off hearing what he said.
right. That was kind of my point where everyone was like, "Oh, it's just a press conference. What is he supposed to say?" Like everyone kills the first press unless you're Adam Gase or Nick Sirianni. Everyone kills the first press conference. Like, everyone gets hyped up, but
Yeah.
I would say the difference was in years past, it was kind of like even with the Ron Rivera thing, like he got me hyped up, but then obviously it was kind of like it turned out how it turned out. With this, it's kind of like, and Dan Snyder was still here, so it was kind of like we're always going to be pigeon or whatever you call it. Like there's always going to be a chain holding us back
Yeah.
because of Dan Snyder. But I would say that, like you said, all the stuff he was saying, it seemed genuine and it seemed believable. Like where in the past it was kind of just like, yeah, you're just like the normal GM, kill the press conference, the normal head coach talking the press conference, getting the fan base all hyped up. With this, it was like you said, just looking at his background and everything, how much work he puts in, the hard work he puts in, just from all the nice things that everyone around the league says about him. Like you said, how he remembers people. Logan Paulson was saying that whenever he was in San Francisco, he would come in and always ask about his family, how his kids were doing, how his wife was doing, and stuff like that. So he just seems like an all-around genuine good guy that puts the work in and day out. And they said that good organizations, it trickles down from the top. So hopefully Josh Harris seems like a good owner. The group seems like good people. Adam Peters seems like a genuine good dude that puts the work in. Hopefully all that stuff just trickles down to the rest of the team in the locker room.
Absolutely, dude. And I heard different theories about the third round, the fourth round, and on and all that jazz. And I would absolutely love to be able to get that. I had a thought in mind and it completely went away. But honestly, dude, what I want for this football team is I just want dogs on it. I'm so tired of
Yes.
losing in the trenches. I'm so tired of having this kind of awestruck feeling whenever going against superior elite teams. I'm tired of that. You need the mindset of like Mike Tomlin, where it doesn't matter if they have their backup quarterback. When they play that elite team, they're freaking playing, dude, and they're playing that. They're whooping. Like they're not whooping, but they're at least making you fight for it. And it's been very, very hard to do that here. And I need the trenches back, man. I know that a lot of people are gonna probably say, "Well,
Look,
it's easy," but my top 3 tackles last year in January. You guys can make fun of me all you want. I told you guys, wait, nobody wants to give me the credit. Whatever. DeJuan Jones, Darnell Wright. I was saying Darnell Wright before he was even projected as a first rounder. DeJuan Jones, and then I forget the other one. Oh man, no! I know OG's gonna give me crap for this. OG's gonna give me crap. I can't remember his name now. The right tackle that went to Kansas City. I forget his name now.
I know you're talking about. I forget his name too.
That was my boy, dude, and now I can't remember him.
Taylor. No, not Jawan Taylor. He was a free agent.
No, I'll figure it out. I'm gonna feel stupid.
But no, I mean, to your point though, if you just look where Adam Peters, like he was in New England, where obviously they had a good offensive line in front of Tom Brady. They had guys like Vince Wilfork on the defensive line, and just that good defensive front they always had there. Goes to Denver, and obviously they have a great line in front of Peyton Manning and all those guys. They have Von Miller on the outside, a great defensive line. Then you go to
now I remember what I was going to say.
San Francisco, and they've built it through the trenches with the defensive line, Trent Williams, offensive line, Ben Johnson, like you just talked about earlier. He says that they're offensive line centric, not quarterback centric. With guys like Penei Sewell and guys like that. So I think that they're going to start in the trenches. They get the spine of the team, and they're going to build it out from there.
Now I'm going to end this episode with this. I know that a lot of people have come here with high pedigrees. I've talked up Eric Bieniemy. I've talked up Ron. Whatever. You could crap me for my opinion all you want. I do not care, and I understand that anything can happen. But that being said, in the article that I did read in pertaining to Adam Peters, he was in Denver, and what I had read was that John Lynch went to Denver, went to John Elway and said, "I need help. I'm the GM here. I don't know how to do this with contracts, with player personnel, with scouting. And so he brought Adam Peters on. So you have to imagine John Lynch, who's a GM who's over Adam Peters, had to go get Adam Peters to teach him how to do the job. So you have to imagine, when you look at that scenario, everyone keeps imagining John Lynch up here and Adam Peters down here. Nah, bud, it's that. And it's pretty evident at this point. And that article was very eye-opening, and that's why he was the most sought-after GM in the league to be GM, because a lot of the credit for San Francisco goes to Adam Peters, because he helped a hell of a lot, and with John Lynch in particular. So I love to hear that, and we're in good hands. I'm just happy for the future. I don't want to be pissed off anymore looking back to the past. All right, everybody, it's going to wrap us up for this episode. Appreciate you guys. If you made it this far, you're a freaking champion. An hour and 5 minutes. You guys are awesome. Hope you enjoyed, everybody. Thank you to both the Mikes for joining us today, and you, Hall. All right, everybody, I'm Kyle.
I'm Hall.
And we'll see you guys again on Sunday. Make sure you don't miss it. Reed will be there. All right, everybody. Washington football. Woo! What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo, or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.